Hey everyone, and happy Saturday. This is another episode of Ecto. Got some really creepy stories for you tonight. Just kind of made the hairs on back of my neck stand up anyways. I'm going to take just a short break here just to play some music and get some stuff posted on the groups and stuff. But yeah, the more I get into this journey of asking people about their stories, the more I find that just crazy stuff has happened to people. I mean, more than I ever would have thought imaginable. So the more I delve into this, the more I realize that you always ask yourself, could there be, I'm a strong believer that there is, and even more so now that I've heard, more people just come forward, and just the stuff they tell me is just crazy. But tonight I got a few crazy ones for you, and anyways, I will be back in just a couple minutes. Listen to this lovely music that I keep playing week after week. I gotta get some new music, I know. But I'm gonna post these to the groups and send them to a couple friends, and I'll be back in just a little bit. Alright? Thanks.
The sun and at the morning dawn, I think of your hands like those of broken ghosts. When as I close my eyes, strangers that disguise that feeling not for long that I thought was nearly gone. But it soon came back. It soon came back. It soon came back somehow. Set free and I want to feel the same, but the ghosts of our lives are chasing me again. And I remember how when I came back from the south, I gave the moon a rest, and you were no longer there. But you soon came back. You soon came back. You soon came back somehow. You soon came back somehow. Union Square and back in the London rain, a ghost that comes back like a song that never ends. You know where to find me if you ever need me. You might feel like you do once you've had a drink or two, but you soon came back. You soon came back. You soon came back somehow. But you'll soon come back. You'll soon come back. You'll soon come back somehow.
On Facebook Marketplace, you can buy basketballs or paintings for your walls from neighbors like Michelle or Paul.
Hi.
Hello.
Because on Facebook Marketplace, there's a real person behind the things for sale. Facebook Marketplace. Shop with real people for really great finds.
KBLP LLC. Check us out on iHeart, Speaker, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. With the best podcasters in the business. Denise Harris, Chris Stevens, Michelle Auger, Ike Diaz, Desiree Pickett, Anissa Nicole, Cecilia Flores, Lolita Diaz. Sponsored by TBs303.com. We are also looking for new podcasters. Inbox any of our podcasters or me, ideas directly on Facebook, and someone will get back with you ASAP.
On Facebook Marketplace, you can shop for everything from strollers to lawnmowers to video game controllers. You can buy a briefcase from Faith, sell a basketball to Paul, or buy a record player from a neighbor named Taylor. See, there's a face in a book, and a market in a place where we can search and connect face to face. Facebook Marketplace. Buy and sell together.
Ghost notes at the bottom of this conversation. Drop my keys and phone against a rough pavement. Screens crack, but I still can't hear alright. String of words that I think I've used before. Can't think of another creative way to twist it. You feel safe, locked behind your bedroom door. I don't think that I'm ever gonna change that. Above, below, can anybody hear me? These strings, ghost knows, they don't work in theory. Thrift store guitars and improvised drum sets. The kids are looking for a sound they haven't heard yet. Ghost in the woods, will you come out? String of words and I found a new ending. Think I found a creative way to twist it. It's swelling up, just keep on pretending. The truth seems like the only thing you wanna mess with. Above, below, can anybody hear me? These strings, ghost knows, they don't work in theory.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Ecto. This first story comes from a friend of mine named Teresa. She says this happened to her when she was a teenager, and she said that she's never really talked about it to anybody because just fear of people not believing her. But she has sent me this story, and I'm going to try to tell it to you the best I can because, some of the writing she did kind of jumbled together a little bit, but I'm going to do my best. So, anyways, it says here, it was the fall of 1986. She says, I was a teenager. She said, I was barely 17 years old. She said, I just had a very bad breakup with my boyfriend. I was feeling extremely depressed, and every day I felt myself going into a spiral. She said, I would party with friends and do things, but I just couldn't get out of the funk. She said, no matter what I did, no matter what I tried, I was just constantly depressed. She said a few of us had gone up to the water tower to try to talk to some of the teenagers that were up there. Oh, hold on just one second, guys. I'm so sorry. I got to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
When you see a ghost,
my gosh, sorry about that. Your name to a ghost story. I thought I was having one of my own. I had just started the podcast here, and I started hearing like this scratching at my front door. I was like, "What the heck?" So I had to put you guys on pause for a minute. Thankfully, it was just my neighbor's cat. So, good God, heart attack. Okay, anyways. She says that she had gone into this spiral and just couldn't get out of it. She was extremely depressed. And she said that she had gone up to a water tower with some of her friends that were up there partying. And she said there she was up above, her town looking down. They were all drinking. There was a collection of beer bottles up there, she said, which she thought was interesting, but she said that kids went up there and partied. That's what they did. They just left their beer bottles there. Some would, write their names on the labels or whatnot, and they just left them there. And, of course, while up there, several would tell stories of different people. Well, she had heard a story of a man who was in his late 30s who had fallen on some really hard times and just, lost all his money and lost everything, and his wife left, and the whole, that, and he had lunged himself off of this water tower because of the problem that he had. And, every town has the local ghost story of something, but she said, I never really checked into it to find out if it was true because I was a teenager. She said, about 6 months passed, and she said, I really got into a really deep depression where she said, I didn't even want to see my friends anymore. She said, one day I was driving by the water tower and I kept looking up at it. She said, something was drawing me to that water tower. And she said, I'll admit it, I was in a dark place. She said, that night I went there by myself. And I climbed up the water tower with the full intention of killing myself. Said, I sat up there for a few minutes and I had put my feet under the railing, and I was just holding on and just staring out at the city. She said, crying uncontrollably. She said, nothing could fix my sorrow. She said, suddenly I hear a man's voice, and he asked her if she was okay. She said, I turn, and I see a man, pretty rough looking. Said he was wearing a very old suit, kind of wrinkled, and asked her if she was okay. And he said, at first he seemed very kind and very helpful. That he even sat beside me and was talking to me. Told me nothing is that bad. And she said, I told him, you don't know me. You don't know what's going on. She said, I lost the man I love. And he's trying to tell her, you're a kid. You're going to find somebody else you love. Just, don't do this. She said, the more he talked, the more angry I became. I just wanted to jump. I just wanted to do it right then and there. But he kept talking, and I wouldn't do it. She said, suddenly he turned angry. He started kicking beer bottles off the tower, saying, I don't understand why you're doing this. He kept screaming at me, I don't understand why you're doing this. Why would you do this to your family? Why would you do this to your friends? You're the most selfish being. How could you do this? Now your children aren't going to have it. And she said, I told him, I don't have children. He said, I don't have any children. What are you talking about? He says, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he had kicked the beer bottle again, another one off the tower, and just started getting angry with her. He said, suddenly he came at me. He lifted me up. He was trying to push me over the edge. Said, fine, you want to die? Go. Do it now. And she said, I fought him, and I kept trying to push myself back. And the more I tried to push, the more he tried to throw me over. She said, I finally took one of the beer bottles and I hit him in the leg with it. And he backed up enough, she said, and I got up and I started running towards the ladder. He came after me. He grabbed me by my hair and he was trying to throw me over the edge and said, you want to die? Then let's do it. Oh my God. Okay. I'm having a panic attack for her. She said, I tried to get away from him. I tried hard and I finally scratched his face. And he let go of me, and I started going down the ladder. He started coming after me. She said, I looked up, and I kept going down, and I slipped a few rungs. But I was holding on, and he kept saying, get back up here. You want to die? Let's do it. We're going to die together. And she said, I kept going down faster and faster and faster. She said, finally I looked up about halfway down. He went back up the ladder. He didn't come down anymore. So I get to the bottom, and I started hearing glass breaking all around me. He was throwing beer bottles at me. And she said I started running towards my car, and I could just hear the bottles breaking everywhere. Thankfully, none hit my vehicle. She said I got in my car, and I peeled away. And she said, as I'm leaving my rearview mirror, I could see beer bottles crashing to the ground. She said I got home, and I cried uncontrollably. She said I just could not stop. I was shaking. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. She said I just sat there rocking back and forth, and I stayed in my house for almost 4 days. I wouldn't leave. I was so scared. I thought he was coming after me. She said finally, on the 5th day, I was brave, and I got in my car, and I went and got my friend. She said I told my friend what happened, and thankfully she believed me. We went towards the water tower, and we looked, and she said there was broken glass everywhere, all over the place. And they said they looked up in the tower, didn't see anything, didn't see anybody. So they had gone to a restaurant. She said, I was still crying. I just couldn't believe what had happened to me. She said, I couldn't believe he tried to kill me. She said, a few years went by. I still thought about it every single day. I was so scared. I didn't know what happened. She said, well, then somebody had brought up the subject of the man who tossed himself off that tower. And they said there was a news article. She said, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with finding out what had happened to me. So I read the news article. The picture of the man that was in the article was the man that was up on the tower. She said, I'm convinced of it. I know it was him. It was the same man. It was the same suit even. She said he was angry. He was angry because I was trying to kill myself because that is what he'd done. She said, I really think he actually tried to save my life because he made me know how much I wanted to live. Wow. She said, it's been several years, and my family had moved from that town. I had gone back there once, and it looked like they were getting ready to tear down that old tower. She said, I couldn't believe it. She said, there's still broken glass all the way around it. I wonder if he's done this to anybody else. She said, it scared the hell out of me, scared me straight. She said, all I wanted to do that night was live. I went up there to try and die, and I left just wanting to live. He saved me. Holy crap. Okay. Wow. That is insane. So she went up to this tower. She was depressed. So people who are just joining us, she was depressed. She had gone up to this tower. She extremely depressed for like a long time. And she went up there to try to kill herself. And there was a man up there who was talking to her. And basically, asking her questions. And then he turned angry. And he was trying to throw her over the edge. He's like grabbing her and like trying to throw her over the rail, even grabbing her by her hair. And she got away from him. And even as she was going down the ladder, he was coming after her until about halfway down. And then he gave up and went back up to the tower. And as she's down at the bottom, he was throwing bottles at her, like trying to hit her with bottles. She said she could hear the glass. And she got away. And she believes now that this was a ghost, that this was the ghost of the man who had thrown himself off of there years before. Oh my gosh. Wow. Teresa, that is creepy. Okay, so if anybody has the input on the story, or if you have a story of your own, please send it to me. Oh my gosh. That is so scary. Okay, so she was basically almost killed by a ghost, but at the same time he saved her because he made her realize how much she wanted to live, that she didn't want to die after all. So, wow. Alright, everybody, I'm just going to take just a really quick break now so that I can gather my nerves after the cat incident there and kind of gather my nerves after that story. That is really crazy. Oh my gosh. Alright, so enjoy this song called Ghostly Fading, and I will be back in just a couple minutes. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ecto. This next story comes from a friend of mine named Christopher. He claims that he lived in a house where there were two spirits feuding. Like they were just constantly just trying to, I guess, kill each other in the afterlife. Let's see. He said, this happened in 1998. I moved into my first home. He said, I was so proud of myself. I bought this house all on my own, and I was paying for it all on my own. He said, everything was great. He said, till I started moving my stuff in. He said, everything started happening on day one. He said, I had got my sofa in place. I looked up, and I seen a man standing there. But he wasn't looking at me. He was looking straight ahead of him. He said, I looked back, and I seen a woman on the other side of the living room. And he rushed at her. He said, and when he rushed at her, they both disappeared. He said, of course I was freaked out. I mean, this is day one of my brand new house. He said, so he sat outside for a little while. And when the rest of his friends got there, they asked him what happened. And he told them what had happened. And of course they didn't believe him. So they all go inside, he said, and everything seemed quiet. He said, I didn't see anything for days. He said, and then weeks went by. I didn't see anything. He said, all of a sudden, one night, I was woken up by all this banging. He said, I could not believe the loud noises that were coming from inside my kitchen and my living room. He said, I actually grabbed my shotgun and went out there expecting to shoot something. He says, and I got there, and things were just flying across from the kitchen to the living room, from the living room to the kitchen. He said, I couldn't see anything at that point. I just seemed like one thing fly and then something else would fly, just back and forth. He said, but nothing was aimed at me. He said, so I grabbed my keys and my coat and I, of course, ran out of my house. I was scared to death. He said, so I slept in my car that night because I didn't know what to do. He said, when I went in the next morning, the place was just in shambles. He said, my stuff was broken all over the floor, the living room, and the kitchen. He said, and briefly I heard a woman crying. He said, I went to go follow and I couldn't find anybody. And he said, I started cleaning up and I didn't know what to do. He said, I was going crazy. He said, this just bothered me so bad. He said, so again, nothing happened for weeks. After I cleaned everything up, it was peaceful. I cleaned everything up and for weeks it was peaceful. He said, I didn't hear nothing, didn't see nothing. He said, I told a girl at work about what had happened, and she had a cousin who's a medium who offered to come to my house. And when she came to the house, she said that she sounded like she was bring a fight. She was like a referee at a fight. She said she was telling, no, you need to stop. No, you need to, now, okay, we need to stop this. No, don't throw that. And he said all of a sudden something would go in the air and get thrown. And then something else would get thrown back. She said, so we all left the house. And she said basically what I was seeing was, two people that were married that hated each other so much in life that they hate each other now in death. She said they had both cheated on each other, and the day that they died, they were throwing things at each other, not knowing that there was a gas leak in the house, and one of them had picked up something that caused a spark, and the house exploded. So now they're doomed to spend eternity here unless I can move them on. What the hell? So he said, of course, I'm freaking out because I can't stay in this house with these feuding ghosts. He says, but if I can't afford to sell the place either because it's my first house. He says, and I didn't want to get bad credit and not pay for it. So he said, I was really stuck. So I spent most of the time on friends' couches. I didn't even want to go to my own house. He said, and when I did go there, he said, I formed a barrier around my bed that would keep them away from me. He said, although they never really did anything to me, it was only to each other. He said, one morning I walked out and I was making coffee, and he said, out of the corner of my eye, I see a woman. He said, and this time she was actually looking at me. She wasn't looking past me like usual. Said she was looking at me, and then she turned around and walked away. He said, the better part of me told me not to follow her. He said, but I did it anyways. He said, I followed her outside followed her outside into an area of the garden I rarely had been. Said I went over there and I didn't know what she was doing, and she pointed to the ground, and there was white flowers on the ground. And I didn't know what that meant. He's like, do you want me to pick them? What do you want me to do? And he said she didn't say anything, she just walked away. Said, so I sat there and I stared at those white flowers. He said, and then from behind me I heard a noise. He says, and I looked and there was a man standing there. He says, just plain as day, couldn't see through him. It was just totally solid. He said, I actually thought it was somebody in my yard. He said, can I help you? He said, the man did not say anything. He said he walked over and he pointed to the flowers. Oh, he pointed to the flowers and bent down and was making a motion. So I didn't understand what that was. Oh, I didn't understand what that meant. So I went about my business and I left the house. He said it scared me so bad. He said I didn't want to go back there. He said I didn't go back to that house for almost 6 weeks. He said I stayed on friends' houses, hotels, anywhere I could not to go back there. He said, and then my friend's cousin, the medium, called me and told me she had done some research and that she needed to talk to me. And I went and met her at a local restaurant. Sorry, I'm trying to read this and scroll down. I went and met with her at a local restaurant, and she was telling me some stories about this couple. They had gotten pregnant quite a few times, and each time she had lost the baby. And he blamed her, and she blamed him for the stress, and that's what they were fighting about the day they died. The thing that is odd, she said, friends and family said that they had buried the babies in the backyard. Oh my God. They had buried the babies in the backyard, and she believes that they want the babies buried with them. Oh my God. Okay, so she believes that the babies are buried in the backyard, and they want the babies brought to the cemetery with them. So he said, of course, I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. He said, I knew those flowers they pointed to is what they were talking about, and I know that's what they wanted. And he said, I know that's what they're feuding about. He said, so I got a contractor friend of mine who brought in a backhoe, and started digging in the yard, and sure enough, they dug up 3 little boxes. He said, I didn't, of course, dare open them. He said, but I took these boxes, and I took it to their families and told them what had happened. Of course, the families at first thought I was crazy and told me to get out, and then one of the sisters came to me and said she wanted the boxes. And she brought them to the cemetery, and she buried them. Buried them in their grave. He said after that, the spirits seemed to disappear more and more, even though there was still feuding. But it happened less and less. He said, and eventually they went away, and then the medium showed me ways of keeping them away. He said, and I did not have any experiences in that house for quite a few years before I sold it. He said, but I did at least tell the new owners of what had happened to me, so if something like that happened to them, they would know. He said, but they seemed to embrace it and seemed to want it to happen. Oh my God. That is so crazy. That is just crazy. Oh my God. So basically, he bought this house, had these 2 ghosts like trying to beat the hell out of each other in the afterlife, throwing stuff at each other, and he come to find out that it was because they had lost babies. She blamed the husband because of the stress, and he blamed her, thinking she wasn't taking care of herself, and the babies that she had lost were buried in their backyard. Oh my God. And they had told the medium that they wanted the babies buried with them. Wow. Oh my God. That is so crazy. I'm sitting here reading this, I'm still in disbelief. Okay, so, but once he did that and convinced the families to do it, the spirits, them trying to hurt each other in the afterlife pretty much subsided and then eventually stopped. So, that's so nuts. Just crazy. Oh my gosh, you guys keep bringing me more and more crazy stories. Okay, and I love it. I'm serious. I want more of these. If anybody, whoever's listening out there, message us at KBLP LLC, and let us know your story. I will be more than happy to read it on the air. And it's just insane. I mean, I have had some doozies, like the demon mirror and all that. There's been some crazy ones out there. So, y'all definitely let me know. Let me know. So, that was the stories for this week. So just be careful. Be careful of what you wish for with the water tower thing, because she almost got her wish. She wanted to die, and the ghost made her believe she didn't. Showed her that she didn't want to die, and then this house, be careful houses you buy, you never know what's in there, so. And I think they have to disclose that information now, so, which is a good thing. Anyways, you all have a very good night, and I will talk to you later, and just be careful out there. Make sure you know what you're doing. We'll talk to you later. Bye.